At this, Chester reached out his hand, arranged his fingers so that certain sigils were aligned in a row, and Varu's feather whisk tore through the air and into Chester's grasp. Whipping up a brush from an inkwell upon the table, Chester deftly added a few additional runes to the weapon's handle. Instantly it erupted into blue-white crackling lightning, shuddering under an excess of power. Varu stopped laughing. In my inexperience, perhaps I have confused madness and genius. I listen. Oh, hi there. Didn't see you come in. Welcome. It's a hot summer day. Figured I'd read my 2 books indoors. Tales of M16 and The Book of Genesis. Now, both of my books so far have been quite well received. Well received by humans. The real question is, what do the metal gods, or AI overlords, think of my work? Let's hop on over to the computer and find out. Hey, head on over to the internet, see what Google's AI thinks about my books. Oh, never mind about that one. That was some research I was doing for my next book. That tab either. Cool. Okay, let's start off with, who is Samuel Planck? Put it in AI mode. Not a widely known historical figure. Okay, here we go. Author and novelist. Tell me more about the author with that name. Okay, a sci-fi speculative fiction writer with a highly eccentric and colorful personal backstory. According to his bio, he served as a captain in the U.S. Space Force from 3462 and 3482 on a waste and recycling freighter. That's true. What books did Samuel Planck write? Okay, here we go. The Book of Genesis. What does it say about the plot? Yep, set on a planet called Eden that has been blasted out of its orbit by a superweapon and is hurtling through a starless void. Yep, they've got it correct about the main character. A mutant warrior and slave creature named Eight, a Guilem who wields a foul-mouthed sentient sword named Voodoo. Eight must break free from a cycle of extreme violence forced upon him by fanatical human masters. So we're exploring a character's transformation from a weapon of destruction into a figure of redemption. So basically all AI is doing is just reading the back of my book for you and summarizing that. Truly amazing stuff. And then my second book, Tales of the M16, 16 short speculative fiction stories that focus heavily on the diverse experiences of veterans and the nature of combat. The book features highly imaginative, bizarre, and gritty concepts. Yes, indeed. Valkyries riding nuclear-powered motorcycles in a war against necromancers. A dead soldier who learns empathy after being resurrected on a desert planet. And, yeah, basically, again, AI is just reading the back of my book for you. So now, let's get dystopian here. Write me a 1-page story in the style of Samuel Planck. Let's see what it does. Now, I don't use any AI in my stories, but what's creepy here is they'll take your book. What's going on here? So here we go. Here's what AI thinks my writing is. It's pulled the text from my books on Amazon, and let's see how it does. Oh no, this is I fucking hate AI. The neon glow of New Vegas 4 pulsed through the cracked viewport of the Rust Bucket, a junk hauler that smelled faintly of recycled cabbage and ozone. Okay, right away, that really makes me mad. It's thinking that because I'm a starship captain of a waste and recycling freighter that my ship was disgusting. I kept my ship, the Heaven's Dulcimer, clean and in good condition. Sorry about the off rail there. That just really upsets me that they think that I was driving some disgusting thing around in space. Anyway, let's continue the story. I'll take it from the top. The neon glow of New Vegas 4 pulsed through the cracked viewport of the Rust Bucket, a junk hauler that smelled faintly of recycled cabbage and ozone. 8 sat at the workbench. They stole my character's name. 8 sat at the workbench, carefully scraping radioactive slag from his cybernetic shin guard. She fucking playing soccer? This is so good. As a Guylem, a genetically engineered shock trooper built for a war that ended 3 emperors ago. His skin was a mottled shade of bruised plum, and his left eye was a whirring optical lens. You missed a spot, you oversized purple grape. Oh man, dude, what the fuck? A voice rasped from the table. 8 didn't look up. Shut up, Voodoo. Voodoo was a 3-foot length of dark, sentient hyperalloy. It was supposed to be a legendary plasma-edged broadsword, but mostly it was just a loudmouth with an attitude problem. A glowing blue line rippled along its fuller whenever it spoke. I'm serious, Voodoo buzzed, its frequency vibrating the loose screws on the desk. If we get ambushed by those scrap bandits on Sector 7, I refuse to be wielded by a mutant who looks like he fell into a garbage disposal. Presentation matters, 8. It's called branding. Okay, I just gotta say, if you have seen my channel thumbnails, I can tell you right now, the real Sam Plank didn't write the lines, presentation matters. We are hauling pressurized sewage tanks, Voodoo. No one is looking at my shins. 8 set down the scraper and rubbed his temples. The phantom ache of his old neural inhibitors always flared up when the ship transitioned through hyperspace. He had spent 20 years taking orders from humans who viewed him as a walking artillery shell. Now the quiet was louder than the explosions used to be. Suddenly, the ship's proximity klaxon wailed. I just want to say, personally, I hate the word suddenly in books. I don't think we should use it. Nothing is less sudden than the word suddenly because it announces that something is going to happen. So, yeah, the real Sam Plank didn't write this. The ship's proximity klaxon wailed. A red light bathed the cockpit in a rhythmic bloody pulse. Speak of the devil, Voodoo cackled, its edge instantly igniting into a crackling white-hot plasma field. Finally, let's go butcher some space pirates. I haven't tasted ionized flesh since Thursday. 8 stood up, his massive frame towering over the workbench. He grabbed Voodoo's hilt. The sword immediately began humming a terribly off-key rendition of an old Terran military march. Steady, 8 grunted, walking toward the airlock as the hull groaned under a docking clamp's pressure. He didn't want to fight. He had seen enough planetary crusts turn to glass to last 3 lifetimes. But out here in the black, sometimes the only way to keep the peace was to unleash the weapon they made you to be. Oh! 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 AI, it doesn't see the forest for the trees. My books were all about cycles of violence and how violence creates more violence. And the way to get out of that is with peace and the courage it takes to live in a peaceful world and reject these systems of war. Never, never, never in a million years would 8 ever say a line like that. The only way to keep the peace was to unleash the weapon they made you to be. Wrong. You blew it, AI. The airlock hissed open. 3 raiders in jagged spikes and hoses vacuum suits, oh, that's kinky, stood there, heavy slug throwers raised. Drop the cargo, mutant, the leader barked. Hey, editing Sam here, sitting around in the heat with my shirt off. I just remembered that the cargo of the ship is pressurized sewer tanks. So the bandits are raiding their ship to get these tanks of sewage. Great job, AI. Great job. 8 didn't drop the cargo. Instead, he smiled, a terrifying expression involving far too many teeth. "He said your mother was a toaster," Voodoo screamed at the raiders, completely unprompted. "Get him, 8." With a sigh that was entirely human, the mutant leaped forward, a blur of purple muscle and blazing white plasma. Oh my god, dude. AI ain't taking my job anytime soon. Okay, let's really have some fun now. Zach Hughes was an SF writer who also wrote erotica. Continue the story in the style of Zach Hughes and give Voodoo the ability to transform into a sex toy. Here we go. The rust bucket groaned as the docking clamp sealed. 8 didn't immediately rush the airlock. Instead, he stood in the narrow companionway, his broad chest rising and falling beneath his stained flight harness. The proximity of danger always heightened his senses, making the air taste sharper, sexier, and heavy with the scent of ozone and raw adrenaline. "They're coming through the hatch, you big brute," Voodoo murmured. The sword's voice had shifted. The abrasive, rasping frequencies smoothed out, dropping into a low, resonant purr that vibrated directly against the skin of 8's palm. "And frankly, I'm tired of spilling blood. Let's show these vacuum skimmers what real power looks like." Okay, there you go. The way to overcome war and violence is get rid of your swords and buy something else, if you know what I mean. With a subtle mental command channeled through the neural mesh in 8's wrist, Voodoo began to alter its atomic structure. Zach Hughes always understood that the technology of the far future was fluid. Zach Hughes is an author, not a character, adapting as much to human desire as to cosmic warfare. The 3 feet of crackling plasma edge dissolved, collapsing inward. The hyper-alloy softened, molding itself into a sleek, throbbing phallic rod of dark obsidian composite, pulsing with a warm, internal violet luminescence. It hummed not with the anger of a weapon, but with a deep, rhythmic cadence designed to stimulate the nerve endings of any organic beings it touched. The airlock hissed open. The 3 raiders stumbled into the cargo bay, their heavy slug throwers raised. But instead of a cowering merchant, they were confronted by a 7-foot mutant warrior holding an object that radiated pure, hypnotic, carnal energy. The ambient temperature of the bay seemed to rise 10 degrees in an instant. That's Fahrenheit, by the way. The lead raider, a striking woman whose tight-fitting vacuum suit did little to hide the sharp athletic curves of her body, froze. Her fingers slackened on the trigger. Her eyes locked onto the pulsing device in 8's hand, her breathing instantly turning shallow. What kind of weapon is that?" she stammered, a flush creeping up her neck underneath her transparent helmet. "It's whatever you want it to be, sweetheart," Voodoo whispered aloud, sending a targeted audio beam straight into her headset. The vibration of the device in 8's grip grew more intense, sending a sympathetic ripple of heat through his own engineered muscles. 8 took a slow, deliberate step forward, the sheer alpha presence of his massive frame dominating the cramped corridor. In the vast, lonely reaches of the galaxy, conflict didn't always have to end in death. Sometimes the ultimate conquest was entirely biological. Wow. So considering how popular romanticy is nowadays, it may be that this AI shitpost I'm making just for fun now might end up being my most popular work yet. Okay, let's wrap things up here. Vincent King was an obscure SF author with a psychedelic reality bending style. Conclude the story in the style of Vincent King with the new idea of having it all been just a dream. Here we go. The crimson light of the cargo bay did not merely blink, it dissolved. The bulkhead walls of the rust bucket began to ripple like oiled silk, the sharp athletic curves of the raider captain stretching out into long, melting ribbons of violet smoke. 8 tried to lift his arm, but his engineered muscles had turned to wet sand. The obsidian rod in his hand was no longer solid. It expanded into a geometric cloud of humming fractals, spinning clockwise until the very concepts of weapon and pleasure collapsed into a single nonsensical color that tasted like copper. The parameters are bleeding, 8, Voodoo's voice echoed, though it did not come from the object. It vibrated from inside 8's own teeth, fracturing into a chorus of 1,000 identical whispers. The perimeter is a perimeter of a perimeter. We are leaking through the floorboards of the cosmos. Yeah! The 3 raiders were gone. In their place stood 3 towering mirrors, reflecting an ocean of spinning clocks. The ceiling fractured, peeling away to reveal not the black void of space, but an endless expanse of checkerboard sky where orange suns rose and fell in the span of a single heartbeat. 8 felt his ego unspooling, his memories of 3 galactic empires turning into mere ink blots on a cosmic blotter paper. Time was running backward and sideways at once. He was a warrior, he was a child, he was a particle of dust floating in a giant's eye. Wake up, the universe commanded, fracturing the psychedelic kaleidoscope with a sudden, deafening crack of thunder. All right, there we go. Actually, that last line wasn't too bad. Well, yeah, that's what AI thinks my writing is, combined with Zach Hughes, who's an author that I enjoy, and combined with Vincent King, an author who I really enjoy. So there you go. Hope you enjoyed a little shits and giggles posting today, seeing what the metal gods of AI think of my books and who I am, and if they can imitate my writing. And the answer is no, but maybe I need to start heading in the direction of romantasy. Anyways, the perimeter is a perimeter of a perimeter. Stay well. Don't leak through the floorboards of the cosmos.